So a big thing I like about TikTok is the sense of community, and I feel like a big part of that sense of community comes from this FaceTime or video chat type vibe that we get from these types of videos. And I feel like I don't think I have a single video where I'm like talking to the camera. So with festivals and concerts being a huge trending topic in this past week with the Astroworld documentary that came out, as well as the Woodstock documentary, Woodstock 99 documentary, I watched both. And as someone that was at Astroworld, I will tell you, watching that documentary was extremely hard, and I wouldn't be able to record this video had it not been like 8 days since I watched it. But I will say, watching that documentary was like quite literally like reliving the experience. But I will say I was also on the right side, so I didn't have the experience that a lot of the people on here had been sharing, and just the magnitude as to how many people were impacted it's heartbreaking. It's so sad, and I can say it lightly now, lightly meaning I can say the words, but I think I went down this huge rabbit hole about and reflected on so many things, and I was just in like such a dark place mentally thinking about all these things, even though this was 4 years ago. But the biggest takeaway, or the biggest thing that people would ask was, you know, was this preventable? Whose fault was it? And I still see like a lot of comments flying around. And I just wanted to answer like common questions and like my point of view. Again, it's my point of view, so it doesn't mean that this is like the point of view. So take it as you want. But I will say I have been to several concerts and festivals. Rap has always been my favorite genre, and like trap over the years. Melodic rap is my favorite genre of music. I fully knew that there was going to be moshing, and I am not a big fan of mosh pits in general. Even in the EDM scene, it's very popular, and it's just something that I just never sits right with me. But you know, it is what it is. It's what you want to do. And I knew it was going to be wild, but I don't think anything could have prepared me for the extent. And I did have people that reached out to me and said like, well, it's a Travis Scott concert, what did you expect? And I'm like, well, I don't think you understand the extremity of what this event was at. And everything after watching the documentary, I do think, even though it was probably one of the hardest watches, like I felt like I was choking while I was watching it, because it was so hard to hear people tell their stories and not feel like extremely sad about what happened, as if it was happening in real time. And everything that I thought or felt was verbalized, whether it was through the documentary or through people recounting their experiences on TikTok, which is another big reason that I really like this platform, is that I feel like people can be more of their authentic self, can like be seen through the videos that we share. But I will say, just like certain things, to me at least, I will tell you that there was like way too many people in a very compact space. We somehow, our group ended up being on like the right hand side of the stage. It was like literally a trap to get through the left, but I think someone in our group needed food or something after seeing SZA. Like we saw Lil Baby, and then we saw SZA, and then we made our way around up on the hill to get food, and that's how we ended up on the right side. And I remember when we were in our place waiting, and I think we had like 4 minutes on the clock, and I did not know people camped out of that whole layout to be able to see like Travis Scott at the front, you know, like at the best seats that you could get, or standing room. And as a raver or like concert goer, I always want to get to the front. And I even remember I told my friend, like, I'm like, we are going to get to the front of that set. And you did not want to get to the front of that set. But anyways, so when we were standing, this never ever happened to me before, because I mean, you go to concerts and festivals because you want to have a good time. I had such a bad feeling. Like, I literally felt like I was about to have an anxiety attack, and our group was like around each other, but we were kind of spread apart, and I had no idea why at this point. The theme, I mean, I already knew it was dystopia. We heard Escape Plan, like literally heard it once it was released at midnight, I think, because I know Travis Scott released it on that date, because we were all together around that time, and we heard it. I thought the art, the cover art was extremely bizarre. But other than that, I didn't have any weird signs. I did remember seeing like a woman pushing a stroller, like when I first got there around 6 p.m. because I went there after work. So I didn't see the masses coming in, or like have that experience of getting pushed through with all the people that didn't buy tickets, or just like the crowd rushing in. I didn't experience any of that. Like my entry was like really late, so it was calm, quote unquote. But I will say, like, when I was waiting and it was getting closer and closer, I was just panicking. And I didn't know why, but I think it's like our bodies, I feel like I keep hearing this throughout this year, but it's like our bodies tell us before we, like, can process. And I remember, like, I really, really wanted to leave. And I was like, I'm at the back anyway. I just have to turn around and, like, literally go home. And I was like, I'll explain it to my friends later. I'm sure they'll understand. But, like, when I turned around, I was no longer at the back. There was, like, literally so many people at this point. We were so packed in, and I'm on the quote unquote better side of the stage, and I was terrified. But I was like, okay, I just have to stick it out, and we're gonna just have to, like, go with the flow. And the biggest thing is that, of course, like, you know, Travis, like, encourages his fans to rage, and that's, I mean, okay, I understand. I knew about that, but the crowd was beyond my comprehension in terms of the way they were. It was like people were just jumping so much and pushing. Like, I know they talk about pushing you forward, but people were pushing me, or the crowd in general were pushing each other to the right, to the left. Like, there was no way of stabilizing yourself. And I'm a very klutzy person, and I just remember, like, I kept saying, like, Hunsini, you have to make sure you don't fall, because if I fell, there was no getting back up. Like, people would just push forward. And that's the biggest thing. There was no concept of plur, which is, like, huge core principle of EDM festivals. You know, you look out for your neighbor. And I think even Travis pointed out, like, look out for your neighbor at some point, or, like, give your neighbor a 5 or something. I'm like, these people aren't even gonna look at us. They're gonna just storm forward. They don't care about anybody. So I do feel like overall the crowd being the way they were, like, that did not help anything regarding that situation. But I also know people said that it seemed like they didn't give us a clear answer, or the documentary tried to cover up. Well, they didn't, obviously. At the end, they said, like, they couldn't pinpoint whose fault it was, but they did give away, like, they tell us literally that the organizers knew what was happening and chose not to say anything. And that really did not sit right with me at all, because it's kind of like, you know, growing up, and this could very well be me being naive, but you think when you go to an event, you're protected, whatever space you're in is able to fit how many other people are there. And the whole point, like, even when you buy a house, you know, you get an inspection to make sure everything's okay. The fact that didn't take place until literally there was this huge tragedy, for an inspector to get involved and survey the area and make sure that it was a safe, or obviously was not safe, but, like, to make sure that it could fit the capacity, knowing that there was going to be way more people than they bargained for. That just, to me, like, it didn't sit right, and it made me feel, like, even worse, like, just learning all those details, because it's like, you guys knew, you didn't stop, like, and just also seeing all those people trying to get help, and then, you know, being booed or, like, not listened to, was just so frustrating. Because why wouldn't you want to help someone? Like, at the end of the day, like, we're here to see someone that doesn't even know our name, isn't going to know our name, doesn't even, at the end of the day, doesn't really care, right? We're fans. But all that aside, I think for me personally, like, any type of show that involves, like, the concept of moshing, from a more, like, from a more, I kind of ran out of words, but from a more uncontrolled crowd is something that I would not want to attend. I mean, I've attended one rap show, a very small rap show, in the past 4 years since that happened. But I still, even when I went to that, I was just, like, so paranoid. So that was my experience. The Woodstock 99 footage, on the other hand, I feel like a lot of that was, and this is my opinion, I wasn't there, it just seemed a lot of it was, like, very BDE and women oppression of women, or just, like, seeing women as objects. It was just, that was very disturbing, but in a different way. I feel like the weight that each of those carried, like Astroworld versus Woodstock 99, were very different. I feel like Woodstock 99 was just, like, people going crazy because they didn't have provisions, and it was obviously, again, not well structured, and it felt like a lot of last minute things were added for both of these. But overall, it was very eye-opening to see how planners can be very last minute and make decisions that don't look out for who's attending. So that was my overall impression of those two documentaries and music overall.